We are live.
Go on.
Here we go. Here we go. Guys, absolutely buzzing for this tonight. Yes, we have action. People joining on now, guys. The numbers are starting to rock up. That's brilliant. But
Good,
absolutely buzzing for this tonight, guys. Another one of Dundee's finest. We've been absolutely spoiled. And another Fintry boy as well. How we doing, guys? Spot on.
Sounds real.
Give a wee fist bump in the comments. Lots of people saying, hi, Gary. That's brilliant.
All right.
So, here we go. Guys, first of all, if you can, hit that share button. Want to see those numbers going up. Amazing story for Gary tonight. Hit that share button. Tag some people who you think will maybe be want to see this tonight. Tag them in the comments as well. And let's get them numbers flying up, because this is going to be a cracker. Okay.
No pressure.
So,
Oh.
right, guys. Gary, I had to write this bit down, okay, for your intro, because
Yep.
you are a top man. So, author, poet, frontman, playwright, fitness fanatic, winner of the SAS, Are You Tough Enough? And also one of Dundee's finest, Scaffies.
Yes.
Yes, my man. How you
Listen,
doing,
mate,
guys?
I'm good, Dino. Thanks for haying us on here. Brilliant.
Nah, buzzing to hear you on, mate. Absolutely. So, here it was like when I was going through the list of people who I was thinking about, what can I get on, and trying to keep it local as well, because we've got so much talent right here in Dundee. And I was like, bang, you were right up there, mate. So, buzzing to hear you on.
Thank you.
So, how you been?
All good. All this lockdown stuff and that. I got my hair done for the night. I've had a shave, but I'm trying to hide my pus because I've got a cold sore. So it's on that side there. So I'm just going to sit like this all night and speak to you. I come on Friday and I was like, no, I'm going live with Dean. So no, honestly, thank you for inviting us, and thanks to everybody tuning in, listening. There's going to be a load of stuff here the night that probably even my family or some of the families no heard. I'm just going to go in. We're going to have a laugh at the old days, but talking about mental health issues, which I've dealt with myself and that. So really looking forward to it.
Brilliant, mate. Yeah, I'm the same, Gary. Like every day's a battle. I've got to get up and get my shit together just to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what was maybe quote that I put up the day was like, happiness is everything. That's what I'm starting now. Getting up and activating my mind by then a workout or whatever it is, just to get myself going in the day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what you're doing yourself, fitness was not. Fitness is one of the great things for people to get in. And I would say one of the things during this lockdown has been great seeing so many people out on bikes, walking, running. And I hope it keeps going once things do get back to normal. It's great to see.
Definitely. When we were chatting over a messenger, when we were planning this, and I messaged you on Sunday, you were like, I'll give you a shout when I get back. I'm just coming over the cities.
I was out in the Sidlaws doing a few runs, but I've been involved in that 25 press-ups over 25 days challenge. I come like that. People have been doing it for months, guys and girls, and it really is fantastic to see people having a go. It doesn't matter how many you do, but again, just to keep the awareness going. Mental health is something that very much hidden in people, and the main thing is to talk. Once we get into it, I'll tell you how I dealt with it or didn't deal with it and kept it stuck in here. So it's good. Keep talking and keep positive.
Brilliant, mate. So, guys, I'm going to ask you to tap right back to the very start, and we'll start the process, and we'll get it going. Over to you, my man.
Right, this isn't a pint of gin, it's honestly water. If people have seen me lately going live on Facebook, there's been a few bad ends. I'm nearly divorced, so this is water Mrs. Robo, she's sitting upstairs. I think I'm maybe the first guy ever to fall asleep on live Facebook the other week, just last week, I think, and people are sitting watching me sleeping. So absolutely surreal. The modern world, it's mental. Okay, enough of the waffle. Tell you right back at the start, I was born on the 21st of February 1967, so I'm officially an old fart, although I still carry on like I think I'm 18. First house was in Rye Hill Lane up the Perth Road in Dundee, and it was an outside toilet and that. I can't mind it because I was still in my nappies pushing my brakes and that. But I think we were there for 2 years, me and my mum and dad. And then they got a house up in the Whitfield Maltese, which was a brand new development at the time. And it was that brand new that the view outside was berry fields. Whitfield was just getting developed, soon to become the biggest housing scheme in Dundee. So that was me, 1969, I think. We goes into a brand new house. And you've got to remember, the schemes were getting built after the war, and to be a family and move into a brand new house was something unbelievable. And one of the things, there was convector heaters in the Maltese. People that stayed in them will remember them. And you just flicked the switch, and within seconds, it was toasting. like everybody else. Mum and Dad didn't have a penny to rub together. So you'd put on the heater in the morning to heat your shirt up and get a clap in the lug and get that heater off. There's no money for that. So, the Maltese is a bairn. I mean, it's crazy when I think back now that I would have been anything for 2, 3 year old, 4, 5. I moved out when I was 7. But we were going down the stairs playing all over the place as a wee tot that, I mean, I've got a grandson now that's 5 year old, and I wouldn't dream of letting him out. And again, people that stayed there, the Maltese, we stayed in 9E Whitfield Court, I think it was. And loads of times the lift wasn't working. And in winter, I mean, you'd be out playing, and I could mind coming upstairs, pitch black, shiting your brakes, and there was all sorts of weirdos going about in the 70s, is what I can now. The one that had Whitfield. No offence to the Whitfield people was there. But I mean, you'd have people pushing and human shite on the landings, and that's no lie. The communal drying green was down on the bottom of the Maltese, and I could remember like my dad's jeans going amiss and that. I think it was called snowdropping, stealing people's washing after washing lines. So there was all sorts.
I've got a visitor, Gary. This is every live, mate.
Hi, Paul.
Say hi. Say hi. Right, off you pop. Close the door.
Great. Visitors welcome. All visitors
likes to make an appearance on every live, mate.
Good. Good to get the weans involved. So Whitfield memories, just house parties, real mad house parties. My mum and dad, they sing songs, had the family up, same as Abdi, going into the wee small hours, and you're trying to get asleep, and my mum's doing 10 guitars and all that shite. But it's memories now. When you look back, you're like, I wish we could do the days again.
I lived in Ardor Maltese, mate, and I was the same. Right. I moved there when I was about 2, and I could remember being out playing like constantly in the garages that were in between, kind of climbing through the venties in there, and must have been like 5, 6 year old.
It was a big adventure, and it's funny, I can mind a big huge puddle, or in Dundee we would call it a dub, but when you're wee it was like about the size of the swimming pool, and I can mind paddling in it. This big boy came along, the local bullies, and threw my sandal right in the middle of it, and it was too deep to go into, so I had to go with him greeting with one sandal missing. Probably got a clap from my mother for losing the sandal and no sticking up for myself. I've got some notes just on my left, so if I glance over, apologies to Abdi, but
good.
I'm just thinking, the the strikes. I can remember the 1973, I think it was, the power cuts, and like get bathed, probably, well, it would have been cold water because there was no electricity, and by candlelight. And by this time, my sister had come along, 1970, I think, 1970 or 69, something there. But that kind of thing. But really, best childhood, mum and dad never had a penny, and the Christmases we got, my dad was brilliant at DIY and still is. So he'd make me forts and Wild West setups with cowboys and Indians, and me and my sister were absolutely spoilt. So one thing I do remember, my dad had built a chimney in the multi, minding it's 9 up, and the tapwood was about that thick. And I used to ask, how does Santa Claus get in? And it still baffles me yet how he managed to get in. It was great, but anything I remembered there was my dad's wage packet. I think he kens this. If he doesn't, I'm going to get grounded. My dad's wage packet used to sit on the windowsill, that old brown wage packet. So he'd been working a week. I didn't care what the wage was at the time. He was in the jute mill, and it was probably about £12 a week or something. And I might have stole a £1 note. I wasn't a thief, I wasn't into knocking, but for some stupid reason, I went and stole a £1 note. And me and my pal, John Livy, I says, "Man, we'll go down to the shops." Whitfield. We probably spent about 50 pence and had enough sweets to give the whole Skeem a sweetie. And I still had about 50 pence left. I was like, what am I going to do? And to this day, I think my old man probably got battered for the wage packet being short. So I didn't own up to that. I maybe have not owned up, so I have now. Sorry, Dad, I'm due you a pound.
Brilliant.
I was just minding, the bath time and that. I mean, people that fans of Billy Connolly will ken his sketch about the hair cutting implement that you probably got for the Tupperware or something. My ma used to have the Tupperware parties and sell all the shite of the day just to make some money. But she bought into these hair cutting things that had razors in it, and the idea was to comb your hair and it would cut your hair for free. You didn't have to go to the barbers. I was like somebody just pulling your hair. So it was all that kind of nonsense going on. So that was the Whitfield Multis until about 1974 we moved out of there to Fintry. Now Fintry at the time, when I was researching the gang book, that Fintry had one of the biggest moonlighting problems, which was when people would let other debt arrears build up hundreds of pounds and then just bail out, because nobody had bought their houses then. They'd bail out and go and get a new house in Whitfield. So we come the other way. We come from Whitfield into Fintry, and I still remember the place was like a shite house. The garden was a jungle. There was still all the furniture and everything laying about, but soon enough it was turned into the family home, and my mum and dad are still along there yet. So it was
the same house?
New beginnings, 1974.
Are they still in the same house now, Gary?
They're still there, yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So that was it, and new pals, going to a new scale, which it was quite daunting going in. I think it was primary 2. You're the new guy, but it happened to loads of people, and pretty soon you made pals and just got on with it. So that was it. Scale days, playing marbles. I think I mentioned it a wee while back in a wee video I'd done, but there was like all the different seasons. You'd get football cards, where you play cards to win them. But the marbles, I used to love the marbles, and you had all the Clearies, Chineses, Staleys, but you'd be playing a lot, and the bane of a marble player's life was the Cundeez. Because your marble would go right down it, and I can still remember at scale lifting the lid off the Cundeez or the drain, and roll up the shirt and get that arm right in the sludge and fake a boot. You'd maybe get your marble back, or you'd maybe get a couple of bonus ins. And you just wipe your arm on the grass and get back on with the game. Oh,
brilliant. What type of stuff were you into at the scale then, Gary?
Definitely football. The football was massive. Everybody, just other young guys would play football, and I really wanted to be a football player. I was pretty good. I got on the Fintry primary school football team, but we kind of weren't that good as a team. Charlie Adam, John Riley, and that had gone before us, and they had a great scale football team. I think they won everything. But Mr. Layton was the teacher who put his time aside and gave us the chance to go and play against other scales. And that it was great. But it was one of the biggest moments in my life, making it into the scale football team. I think it was primary 6. That was massive to be in the team.
Quality. Good, mate.
Yeah, I'm just looking. The first time I got the belt, for younger people, getting the belt is gone now. But we had a teacher who will remain nameless. He used to like a wee drink. I'm wondering how he's raking a drink, but I minded getting the belt for him, and it was sore as hell. And the thing was, in the class, you couldn't agree that showing weakness. It was like, especially if you got it on the.
What age were you, Gary?
It'd be 9-year-old.
9.
That's the first time I could remember. 1976. Just busting about in the class. It's funny because I'll come to it just shortly, but I was quite good at scale. I stuck in. That I changed in secondary, but no, I did enjoy scale, and the main thing was playtime, dinner time. You were out playing football until you come in. But it's funny nowadays. I mean, working on the bins, and we'll see the kids going to scale, coming in like 9:05, 9:20, 9:30. That nobody done that in our day. That was instant belt. Everybody, times have changed there.
Totally.
But I grew up on mess scale dinner. My gran and granda stayed just across the road from the school, so my whole life I lived on Stovey's Angel Delight and pieces on jam. That was my staple diet. But the days, it was just what fun you could get up to. I mean, nobody had Xboxes and PlayStations. I'm glad I grew up in that era where it was just carefree days. You were never in the house. And I mean, I ken the young people now still get out and about, but so much life now is online. And I do it myself. I mean, I go on Facebook and that. It's great. The good side is meeting so many people, even if they're on screen pals. I've met people. I've finally met people, and it's like you've kent them all your days.
It's mental. That's mental.
That's a great side. The downside is the old keyboard warrior nonsense, and folk could tap punches at you for hundreds of miles away now.
It's a funny time that we live in, because we're probably at the point where we've just sort of went for no online to like everything online, and it's like there's like a crossover period where we're sort of just in the middle at the minute.
Definitely. I mean, I see my young niece and nephew and that they're just seem to be glued on it. But we're hearing a lot of family do that other day there, and they were telling with their weekly amount of hours, 60 hours and screen time. Just like, what? But it's the way it is. It's the modern day. It's like, telling everybody to get out and do things.
So were you creative at school, Gary?
Nah, writing English and that, when you had to write stories, what have you. Always, fair young age, I used to read books, wee horror stories and what have you. I loved all that, but it's funny because I ended up in a band, the Cundeez, but musically, I couldn't string 2 notes together. And poetry and everything what you end up doing. I mean, you'll maybe ken yourself when you were at school, the mere mention of the word poetry, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Because it was definitely some shite that you weren't into. When you're young and you're getting Robbie Burns and like, oh, what's this about? But
usually you were getting forced to stand up in front of the classroom and do your Robbie Burns poem as well, man. I used to shit myself for that.
Oh, I mean, just jumping a wee bit forward, we had a guy, terrible to think about now. He had a really bad stutter in the English class, and the teacher knew this and would deliberately get him to stand up and read a passage. And of course, it took about 2 hours to read it. But when you're a kid and times are cruel, we thought this was hilarious. It's not. You look back and, I mean, even the thing at scale, the creative people that were playing the recorder or the tuba or whatever, I mean, they used to get ripped just because they're playing a musical instrument. Like, they were the good people, we were the dafties. So, no, for anybody ever slagged up for doing that, I'm sorry. But it's funny, just touching on that scale life, just as you're getting that wee bit older in primary scale and in life, I suppose, in general, that there's a pecking order. And I mean, I used to always get by having a laugh with my pals and that, but I think I had one fight at scale and I ran away, and it was something that really affected us mentally, just because I didn't really stand up for myself, and that was something that was going to haunt me for a long, long time to come. And it's really funny to think now, because people will look at us and say, oh, you're confident, you're self-confidence and what have you. For a long, long time, my young years, my adolescent years, was really scared of my own shadow, and people will not believe that. But there was a few moments in life where I run away and I beat myself up because I didn't deal with the things at the time. So, yeah, that was. How do you
think that you reacted like that, Gary? Do you think was there a trigger, or do you think that?
Just fear. I mean, my upbringing, mum and dad, great family life, but never really forced to stick up for yourself. You were streetwise because the gangs was to come in the late 70s and that, after the early 70s, but you were wary. But I think I had a great fear of getting a good kicking as a bairn. So self-preservation, you try to avoid it. But even a one-on-one, if somebody said boo to me, I'd shite my brakes. So it was really, that was something that I had to deal with myself in later life. In my teenage years, I changed that. But I'll come to that in a minute.
So when did things start to change? When you went to high school?
Yeah, I'm just looking over here. I'm trying to go chronological through the whole stuff. The Fintry Community Centre, or the Clubby as we called it, the community centres were fantastic for the bairns at the time, and there was Curtin, Arler, Fintry. We'd go there every Tuesday and Thursday, and then when you got a bit older, Friday was the discos, and it was great because there was Northern Soul, punk rock, mods, ska, heavy metal. Then the New Romantics came, and some of the mates started wearing leg warmers and looking like writings, like. But the community centre was great, and at the time, the gangs were really back big time. And again, it was a real dodgy time to go about, especially if you scheme to scheme, because if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, you were getting a real doing or chest if you weren't quick enough. But even going into town, you could walk into the wrong squad and they knew you weren't for the scheme that they were for, so it was boom. But I managed to avoid all that. So there came a time when I actually started. I bought a Learn Yourself karate book out of John Menzies. I've still got it. And I must have said to myself, right, I've got to do something about this. I mean, like other bairns at the time, loved playing football. You were very active, so there wasn't an ounce of fat on us. I weighed about 2 stone. So I got this Learn Yourself karate book, and I used to look at the pages and like, this is good. Didn't have a clue. But eventually, very early 80s, I plucked up the courage to go to Dempsey's karate. I mean, that for me personally was a massive thing to just go down on my own and join a karate class. And I really enjoyed it. I stuck it for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and I got quite good. But that really was the start. A great love for martial arts, which still here now. End up doing a bit of kung fu. Went to the boxing like I think most young laddies did at the time. Got my puss punched and says, I'm not doing that again. Doing it at the Whitfield Labour Club. It's been knocked down now, doing Princess Street. But again, another big defining moment was video recorders had come out in the probably late 70s, early 80s. So my mum and dad they got this Sanyo video recorder. It was about the size of a small car. And I think you pressed the foot pedal to put the cassette in. But it opened up a whole new era for us of seeing films, and like The Warriors, The Wanderers, when all the gang stuff was in. But Bruce Lee, the Bruce Lee films, and I got into Bruce Lee massively. Just started reading his philosophy, and it started to click in the mind just about self-motivation and that. And this really was the early 80s. So went to Linlaughlin High School in 1979. Again, totally new pals, new beginnings again. But I really started to get obsessed with martial arts. But still, if somebody says boo to me, I didn't have the bottle to deal with it, which it was to haunt me for a lot of years. Just trying to move on. I'll come back to the martial arts and that. I've just, there was a few early scrapes with death when I was younger, and one of them was, I was probably back in the early to mid 70s. My auntie Aileen, if she's watching, she kens exactly what I'm about to say. We were in my gran and granddad's down in Fintry, and the adults were up playing Scrabble downstairs, and me and my wee sister were sitting upstairs. Aileen was a couple of years older than me, and we got into the old bar heaters, the bars that go red hot, and I don't know if she'd done it first. I think she touched it with this like a needle thing, and it sparked, and she was egging me on to go and do it. So I'd done it a couple of times, and I was like, zzz, zzz. Oh, this is great. I stuck it in. I should have killed myself, but I blacked out the whole house. And next thing that the adults were up in arms, but I think Aileen got a good scattering for that, but I should have been dead there. Another in when I was young was we went on holiday to Great Yarmouth. Great holidays, family times, what a Butlins and Ayr, a couple of years in the early 70s. And my dad couldn't drive at the time, so we'd pile into my granddad's Hillman Hunter, and we went down to Great Yarmouth and down to Norfolk Broads. And we went to the beach one day. I'll never forget. It was called Sea Palling Beach, and a puss about in the water, and the waves were massive. And I mind I got put under, and I got up and I got put under again, and I swallowed a gallon of water, and I thought it was what I did. And my dad picked us out and dragged us up, and that really affected us for a while. I was scared of the water. Should have been drowned.
What age were you?
Oh, then I'd be 10-year-old, I think. I mean, I could swim, but no very good. Another incident in the mid-70s was Frisbees had just come out in Scotland, the new craze, and I was playing with in my backies along the road, and the neighbour's hedge used to creep over into ours, and I was running to get the Frisbee, and I got a thorn stuck right in my eye, in the coloured bitty. So a couple of millimetres, not even a millimetre or that further into the iris, and I would have lost that eye. And it would have changed my life completely. It was just the wee things, you're either here or something drastic happens. I was just lucky, but I was up to the day, no, it was at 9 Wells at the time, with the eye open. I was in hospital for 2 weeks. Thankfully, they fixed it and all good.
Lucky escape.
It was.
Do you watch UFC now, Gary?
Yeah.
You ken the boy Mike Bisbin? English boy.
Yeah. To be honest, Dean, I didn't keep up with it so much now. Sorry, what were you going to say about him?
No, I was just going to say, like, it was he done an interview just a few weeks ago, because he's just recently retired and that. And during his interview, he's had a glass eye for years, seemingly.
Oh, right.
He's been fighting with a glass eye for years, and he's passed all the medicals, and nobody even questioned it. And just a couple of weeks ago, he just has it this glass eye on the interview, man. It's incredible.
That's hardcore. I mean, it could either put you away in a wee shadow and you never live your life completely, or you do what he done and just you've got to grab life. But yeah, so I'm just trying to go through it. The training started getting right into it, and you've got to remember the early 80s. We were kind of the younger members of the gang, if I could say that. It was a case of hiding at the back, and I mean, you could ask any of the young guys for that era, or older guys now, but you could be standing at the shop. There could be times when there was 50 years there, and it was really intimidating for people, especially old people, try and go and get their bag of chips or pint of milk. But you, I would say, I always had respect for the older people. That wasn't about bothering them. But you'd go en masse to the Laughing or Whitfield or that, and the older guys would be telling you better join in to mark up the numbers. You'd be at the back throwing bricks and sticks. As soon as they come running at you, you're off. But there was some unlucky people got caught getting enough of doing. But it was something that I really enjoyed, the history and the social side of it, how it come about. So eventually I wrote the book about the Dundee gangs, which was really interesting. And it wasn't glorify it. I still get some people coming up to us after I wrote the book saying, "Oh, you never mentioned me in the book, and that time we chased the shams." This it wasn't about that. Again, try to get the bottom of the history and how it come about. The gangs. So again, we'd been watching the Bruce Lee films, and everybody started cutting their mum's broom handles and getting a bit of chain and matting the nunchucks, and nobody knew how to use them, and starting each other in the head. But I was like, it was okay to go a bit tooled up. You got a big baton or nunchucks and that, and we're going about chasing each other and that. So just tough days. Oh, I'm just remembering coming to Sticking in the early 80s, scale days, Linlathen. Again, fantastic memories. I was doing really well at scale, A's and B's across the board, maths, English. I wasn't so great at, but I'm doing very well. But being a young punk and then into the skinhead music and that, no, the rest is shite, by the way. Just kind of getting an attitude, and I was like, it's not cool to stick in at scale. So I started pussing about, and I could remember the results come back in third year, and everything had went, and getting the spotlight for the mum and dad. What's going wrong? It's like, I can better. Because I think by third year and fourth year, I was like, I only want to leave scale and dig holes. I just want a grafting job.
You can't how to read, you can't how to write. What am I still doing here?
I was like, what good is X plus Y equals Z going to do me when I'm only want to dig holes for the water board or something? So I just started mucking about. But I had a good pal, Alan Elder. People from Mulliamens will remember Alan, and I've heard stories he passed away, which I hope he hasn't, but he was an absolute crackpot. No as in a fighter, just off his nut. And in 1982, but we're plunking scale. Not that I plunked much again. I was a wee softy at scale. But we're plunking this time, and Alan's dad used to always be working on cars. And obviously the riots had been the year before down in London and Toxteth and Brixton and all that. So Elder's like, Mum will make a petrol bomb. So he gets a big empty bottle of Mary down cider, and he starts siphoning the petrol into the cars that his dad's working on, and it pours in his mouth. And anyway, we gets the bottle filled up, and obviously we seen it on the news. You put a rag in it and light it. So we goes up to the coal pit, which was a bit of waste ground in Mulliamens, where the youths used to go and drink their carry-outs, sniff glue, sniff gas, and tap mushrooms. Again, I never touched anyone.
You're just saying that because your mum's watching tonight.
No, I can't. I've never even tried smoking. Honestly, I've never tried smoking. The thing, honestly, that kept me getting involved in that was getting heavily into the fitness and martial arts. So it was a hugely positive thing for me. But I would go along to the coal pit with the pals and that, watching my sniffing the glue and getting out their nuts, and then I was like, it's time for me to go. So we goes up to the coal pit, and there's about 5 over there, and Alan Elder lights the rag on the petrol bomb, and he threw it. I'll never forget it. The flames went about 25 feet high. I was like, fuck it. If we'd got caught, we were in the days, you were definitely going to Borstal. So whoever threw it or what didn't, we would have ended up in Borstal. But you weren't thinking the stupid days.
I'll chat here. Like, when you were mentioning earlier on about like the difference in life between now and back then, it's like when I look at my bairns, I'm thinking, get off your phone or get out and play. But when I think about how I was, it's like you would leave the house at like 9, 10 in the morning. You wouldn't come home until like 10 at night, and during that 10 to 12 hours of the day, you were causing carnage. I mean, probably the same as yourself, Dean, and everybody else. For me, anyway, it was a bit devilment. You were getting up to no good. You were annoying adults and that, but you didn't think you were doing any wrong. Just getting back to Alan Elder, that I had probably a year and a half or 2 years really pally with Alan. He was off his fucking nut. He I'd got into the skinhead music and that, and Elder had been coming up to the house and started listening to Sham 69, Borstal Breakout and what have you. So we come out of maths class one day at dinner time, and he's like, "Oh, Gary,
look what I've done. And he had, he tattooed skins right across his hand in Indian ink. And I want to tell you, he didn't have hair. He had a Jerry Helmet haircut. And he's got this big skins written across his hand. Like, what are you doing? And it was funny because a few months later, I was what I say when he came to his senses, he never did. He tried to rub it off with a pumice stain, and it went infected. He ended up getting a big panther's head. It looked like he had a glove on. Another time, oh Christ, I was sitting jotting all these things, memories. There's loads of missed, but we're in Alan's bedroom, and by this time Bruce Lee's massive. We're all watching the videos and Enter the Dragon and that, and says, Elder, Mum will make some throwing stars. These things are deadly. So Elder's dad was out pussing about with someone, so Alan got the back off an old washing machine, and we're in his bedroom with the hacksaw, making these throwing stars. His mum and dad's like, Alan, what are you doing? Oh, no, can smell of burning metal. So we took them into scale the next day, Lunlathen High School, and we're sitting in the Reggie class. So started throwing them about, trying to stick them in the blackboard and that. And I think it was John Archibald. John threw in, and it stuck in the back of Kevin Boyak's neck. It was like, Jesus, they were thin metal. I mean, they weren't the heavy duty that you could have killed somebody. Obviously, could have took somebody's out. We're throwing them about in the class. We got pulled up for the teacher, but nobody owned up to what had them. But just on that,
how was the boy there?
he probably still got the scar yet in the back of the neck. Kev, if you're watching this, sorry, buddy. It wasn't me. Oh, but I mind my dad marking his throwing stars. They were like Star of David out of sheet metal, and you're throwing them about the backies, and then eventually you're like, what else could I throw them at? Just stupid. I mean, back then, a lot of us had air rifles. And I mean, imagine getting into young, stupid youths. You'd be sitting in the back and shooting targets, and then, like, what wildlife is going about? Just shooting people's windies and all. Just crazy. Thankfully, that kind of thing's passed. I mean, it wasn't uncommon to see guys with air pistols going about and that, and air rifles. Daft.
What was the store? Like, your mum used to, was it fiberglass sweatshirts she used to get you to wear, Gary?
Sweatshirts?
Fiberglass sweatshirts.
Have I got that in the book? Trying to mind. No, I think I'm thinking back to used to get woolly stuff that really itched you.
Your mum used to knit.
I still hate that. Yeah, anything itchy. Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the great things that my dad got back in the very early 70s was a cine camera, and we've got all these Christmases and summer holidays right through, and the fashion in our hands. It's absolutely nuts. But great memories.
Quality, mate. Quality. Sorry, I'm interrupting you there.
No, you're fine, because I feel like I'm rabbiting.
Nah, that's brilliant, man. People are loving it, mate. People are loving it.
Listen, thanks to everybody that's tuning in, listening to all this stuff. Right, is it okay to move on? Just keep blathering.
On you go, mate. On you go.
Well, 1983, I get 2 O levels, and I think they were C passes. Just didn't have a clue what I was wanting to do. And like I say, I would have been happy digging holes in that, but there wasn't many jobs going about, apprenticeships. There was the Youth Opportunity Scheme, the Yoppers, and then the YTS. So, and loads of what left scale and end up on a YTS scheme. I think it was 28 or 29 pound a week. But it wasn't drinking or sniffing glue or that, so I just spend it on chocolate and bottles of lemonade and that. But I ended up, because my dad was great at DIY, I was like, I'll go and be a joiner. So I went on a YTS scheme doing joinery, and I fucking hated it. It was useless. That wasn't for me. But I got, I went down the job centre, and I was just lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and I got a job in Dunclair Dispensers, which is now Tockheim. It used to be the Vida Route, just assembling petrol pumps. And it was great because there was only about 11 guys and myself. I was the youngest. So that was the start. I got £45 a week, which was magnificent. But I'm just...
That's doubling your wages, man. Just doubled your wages there.
Didn't care what to do with it. So, like I said, the martial arts, going out for runs and that, I started getting right into it, keeping fit. But somewhere along the lines, I started getting depressed, and I didn't have a clue where it come from. Honestly, I had the best upbringing, happiest times, great pals, nothing to be depressed about, but someone came from somewhere and ended up like stopping training and just sitting in my bedroom at times, just looking at the four walls. And before I came where I was, days and days, weeks had passed, and just starting to worry about life in general. And it was all getting on top was, and I couldn't shake any of the thoughts that were starting to grind us down. And this is kind of mid-80s, be about the mid-80s. And there was something happened that I had I'm going to say this, I had a first relationship. I think it was 17 or 18 when I first had a sexual encounter. And it was an absolute disaster for me. And the next day, it just destroyed us. So just for that and the way I was feeling, I kept it hidden. And I can still remember my dad coming past my room. I'd hear my door open. I'd just be sitting and no saying a thing, no music on or nothing. And I could remember him asking, and I wish it's mental now. I wish I could have just said to him, I'm not doing so good. But yeah, I think there's that stigma. You're like, just get on with it and deal with it. And I couldn't. So
I think going back even just a few years, Gary, a lot. The saying was "man up." Where really, it's not just as simple as that. And I think people are becoming more aware of, and I think a lot more people actually realise that they do have a struggle themselves going on.
Yeah. It was a terrible time. I used to keep a wee diary of the training I was doing, and I've got pages where I've just put DEP because I didn't want to write depression in case my mum or dad ever found it and they could see it, because it was embarrassing to feel that way, especially when I had nothing to be scared or ashamed about. But there's tons of people out there deal with this stuff. But again, people would look at me and say, "Oh no, he's this and that. He's a happy-go-lucky." But so I got that bad that there was in our relationship, and I got packed up, as we would say back in the day, for the lassie, and I just felt an utter failure. Nothing could have changed my mind, because that mindset was there, that I was so ashamed of myself. And eventually the thoughts become suicidal. And it's like, this is so wrong, but it was going towards that's the right thing to do. And
Yep.
again, I was sitting in the room just thinking how I could do it. Can just take a big load of tablets or that. Just absolutely awful when I think about it. And this is not something I've really spoke to many people about, but I hope it's good to get it out just if anybody is struggling, and I'll get to how I got through that. But yeah, the thoughts really were suicidal, and then I culminated one night going down to the Buddies, which was the Sands disco down in the Bothy Ferry, and it was with my mates. But like I said, I would just hide it. We'd started going out drinking by then, and going out with the mates. But we come out the disco, and I went and ran into the tea, and as often people say, it's a cry for help, and I think if I'm being honest, it probably was, because I didn't. If I had it took off, I could have just went and swam into the middle of the water and said cheerio. But I went in the water, the police come past and took us home. And start coming back, I was so embarrassed for my mum and dad doing this, and in that split second, I said, "Oh fuck it!" It was just in my head. I was like, "Fuck it!" I tried to stick my hand in the plug, just electrocute myself. I'd been drinking, which isn't great either. But in that moment of madness, I decided just to go, because I was just so ashamed for what I'd done, and so.
Even at that time, you were still thinking about other people, You still weren't like thinking about yourself. You were thinking outside.
Just madness. I mean, I still think back at that, and we'll keep blathering. It's to come back and bite my arse again. But what happened? I was working away in the factory at Dunclair, and this depression was still there even after that. Like my granddad come up to try and calm us down, and he was in the guys that looked up to. He'd been through the war with the Black Watch and that, and always listened to him. But even in that moment, I wasn't. So the days and weeks following that, I was still at the bottom end of my tether. And I remember that one day I went out on my dinner break at the factory, and went away for a long walk. I wasn't bothered about coming back later. And it was kind of that conversation with your own self. It was like our Wally, good self, bad self, and just kept asking myself, is this what you want? And eventually I talked myself around to saying, come on, let's give this a go. Let's get positive and back to. And as soon as I made that decision, I started getting back to myself again. That for me, that worked. But again, I would always say to people, open up, speak. Didn't be ashamed or embarrassed, because I didn't. I kept it bottled up. But eventually, that talking to myself, and even then, I still didn't speak to my mum and dad about it. I'm just thankful that I did kick my own arse, and that was it. It was.
What do you think happened that day, Gary? I you were in the chat with yourself and that, but what do you think was the turning point when you went on that walk?
I think just what you're going to throw away, and there's so much still to live for. Life wasn't bad. It wasn't destitute. It wasn't on my end, getting battered, whatever. It just says, come on. I did pull myself together, but that worked for me. But I would definitely say speak about these things.
What happened for you there then? You come back for that walk and you're saying, "What? Give this a good bash."
Yeah. Started getting back in about the training. Going out. I hadn't started drinking properly. The career didn't kick off. Like, Abdi was starting drinking at 12-year-old, and the Skeems, the Mary doing in the super lager and glue bags and what have you. So it was late to the party, and it was funny because I used to go in the tune with my pals Scott Brander and George Mickey, and I'd have about 2 or 3 pints in the Cactus Bill. That was me up the road. I was finished. It was great. It was a nice cheap night, but I soon caught up on Abdi, and I think I've lapped quite a few people now. But on a serious note, Dean, getting back into the training, just get back in the zone, and just being thankful for what I did here. The family, great family that I've got, and
yep.
it was a case of get back in the zone, and I didn't ever come back again until later. I'll get to that. So yeah,
yep.
1987. A couple of years later, I met Mrs. Robo upstairs, and she was my sister's pal, and she used to come to the house, and I fancied her, and I don't care if she fancied me, but I would never ask lassies out or that. I used to fancy them, and didn't have the bottle to say, how are you doing? So we were just before that, she kind of liked me, and I didn't really ken. I was very naive. I didn't ken that she liked us. So I'd been growing my hair at the time. It was probably about 1986, 87 when the Casuals was on. I wasn't into the Casuals. Always still into punk music and skinhead music. And so I says, I'm going to grow my hair like Charlie Nicholas. And it was starting to curl up at the back. And I had a big side shade. You'll never see it ever again. I don't even think there's any photos of it. And
did you hear Tasha?
Nah.
No.
I still can't grow a Tasha. I've not matured properly yet. I've still got a space in the middle. So, in a space of a day, I'd been listening to my old records, and I said, fuck this. I went to one of the barbers and took the lot off. Sue had seen us with the Charlie Nicholas hairdo in the morning. And when she come back to the house and I had the balder, it was brutal. And my mum will deny this, but she never spoke to us for 3 days because I got the head shaved. But it's funny to think back. You've got to remember skinheads were seen as like hooligans, boot boys. You wearing the Doc Martens and the bleached jeans, and it was all about trouble and that. And I mean, I loved the music and wearing the gear and that, but you did look like a bit of a thug. Now, the older guys...
Choice.
There's
no choice, man. Mine's is gone with.
But my granda used
I was
to
17, 18, it was gone.
It's acceptable now, Ken. I mean, the guys would try and hood onto the clump of hair around the back. My granda used to do the Rab C. Nesbitt comb over with 3 strands.
Oh.
But that was so... move on a wee bit, and I was in the tune. I'd actually just split up with a lassie, and I was out with my pals, and Sue was out with my sister, and we're just having a laugh and that, and she took my hand, and I was like, I didn't even have to do anything. So, well, there's obviously a reason for this. So, yeah, what were 30 years or something now.
33 years.
But there's a bit of mess I'm coming to. So, yeah, the best thing ever happened is we just liked each other, and Sue's family were brilliant, and the both families, we got on great, and that was it. We were going together and absolutely in love. Again, that was probably a huge thing within my mindset about what had happened previously and that. So, yeah, just happy days, and we ended up getting married 1991. And at the time, before that, I'd been learning the bagpipes. Like I say, I was shite at music, but I'd kind of got right into Scotland, everything Shortbread and tartan and Bonnie Prince Charlie. Start reading all the history, and I was like, let's march on England. Sorry to any of my English pals out there, but stupid days at the time. So I says, I want to learn the bagpipes, and the Fintry Pipe Band practice just doing in the Fintry Primary School. So I went down and I sat, and I probably should have stuck to playing the triangle or the recorder or something, but I stuck with the chanter for a year, and then I got a set of pipes, and I learned them. I stuck with it, but I'm still no good. I can play the tunes and that, but see, I could play a tune a million times and still forget it the million and first time. So I really do appreciate hearing good musicians, but we'll get better.
Yeah, it's cool to play the bagpipes, man. You know what I mean? It's like when you do see somebody play. I mean, I've seen you playing the bagpipes or other people playing the bagpipes. You're like, yeah, that's cool, man.
I mean, it's a great thing, and I've played at weddings and funerals and all sorts. Actually, I've just minded a wee funny story. So, okay, I learned the bagpipes, and ah's good, my granddad's nephew, my granddad's cousin passed away, one of the old Black Watch guys, proper old school, through the war and that. So, my granddad passed away by then, but old Harry Ellis says to us, would you play at the funeral for Eddie Clark? I says, yeah, no bother. So in my head, I'm like, I'll play the Dark Island in, and then Amazing Grace coming out. But Harry says to us, will you play the 42nd? Now, for anybody that kens, the tune, the 42nd, is the Black Watch tune. And the place is, the crematorium's absolutely crammed with Black Watch guys. So that I ken this tune, and so I plays in the Dark Isle. I should have stuck to the plan and went with Amazing Grace. Place is mobbed. They puts down the flag, the body goes down, gets the nod for the guy at the front, so I'm at the back of the crematorium. The fucking notes what start exactly, the first three notes or something's like Scotland the Brave. I mean, I ken the 42nd, but I hadn't been practicing it. So just start matting up a load of shite, and I could feel the veins in that, and I'm like, fuck, and everybody's like turning because it's alright to make a balls up at a wedding or a party in the house or that, but not a funeral. I just starts playing a load of notes, stringing anything together. About turns, whacks out the crematorium door, and it was like a John Cleese moment when his car wouldn't start. I'm like, fuck. Oh, I wanted the ground to swallow us up. So we'll get back to the Black Watch Clubby, and thankfully other guys were laughing. Saying, I
could imagine.
I hope Eddie had a wee laugh at that. I was just saying a daft story for the bagpipes. But so we got married, and the whole Fintry Pipe Band come down to the church and played with them. Great day. And for then, life's great. We had 2 kids, Colin and Ellie, early 90s. Ahan's made up. But the drinking, the push-ups, I think, I'm going to be honest here, I've always approached drinking like I approached training. I just didn't want to give up. I think most boys didn't get me to stop. I'm going to get...
So you're shooting Pringles, is it? Once you pop, you just can't stop. Come on, Dean. I love the moment. I love laughing, but you maybe didn't realise you're being a pain in the arse, and just keep going. So the early days of being married and having a family, I made an arsehole a few times. There was one time I come home and microwave chips. I was starving, and I ken nobody should ever cook when they come home bloated.
get a takeaway for the Chinese or the
Yeah,
Indian.
kebab on the way up the road.
Yeah. I come in. I put the microwave chips on for about an hour, and I think it was my daughter come down, about burnt the house down. I was lying below the smoke line. The microwave chips were microwaved good and proper. That was near a divorce. There was the time we were on, before the kids were here, we're on holiday in Rhodes, and I'd went on the bloody brains cocktails and what have you, and Mrs. Robo was with us, but I was throwing them down like there was no tomorrow. I ended up sleeping in the middle of the road, and I got found in the bucket of a big digger, spewed out our apartment. Never in wake up in the morning like, oh Jesus, that was, you better buck up your ideas. Sad to say, I haven't. It was an hard time.
To my episodes, mate.
Again, there's millions of stories, but it has been a problem at times. There was one time I come out the pub at the bottom of Whitehall Crescent. At the time, it was called Silks. Don't know what it's called now, but we got a wee locky in, and I decided to climb the Christmas tree in the middle of the square. You got to remember at that time, it's not like that wee shitey thing we had just last year or the year before. It was about 12 foot high. This thing was about 100 feet high, and I started climbing it. I was with Paddy Saunders, if you're watching, Paddy, and I got right to the top, and the top of it is about that thick, and I'm swinging on it, singing Jingle Bells, and I'd been getting the bulbs, sticking them in my pocket, and I made sure at the time the top of the Christmas tree was about 10 or 12 white bulbs, and I made sure I got in a proof that Abdi had been at the top of the tree. Again, I should have been dead. It's stupid. You see these adverts about people falling off scaffolding and that, and I'm singing Jingle Bells on the top of this massive tree. But actually, that was before I was married. I got in and my mum fund my jacket in the morning with the bulbs and gave us a good clap around the ear. That's some of the drinking stuff that's been bad.
Keeping it clean the night though, mate, on the H2O.
Yes. If any of my pals up in Western Isles and Abdi that's been listening to Uli MacLeod for Pete and Diesel and the Rock and Kelly show, there's been a few times lately I've went live on Facebook or live as they all laugh at because they're getting the Dundee lingo, but a few times Mrs. Robo's come in live and about strangled us. So when she's went live, just turned the music right up. I've had a few 3-rounders with Alexa. She's not quite got the Dundonian yet, and Alexa's been told to shut her puss a few times. But there's been a few people asking for subtitles tonight, Gary, already. Me and you speaking. All right, come on. This
is exclusive for the Dundonian crew anyway.
Yeah. I was going to try and speak a wee bit proper, which you can. We would call that panloafy, when you try and speak polite but throw in dialect and you make a right arse of it. It's rad Dundonian tonight.
It's like, see, when I try and speak proper, it's like speaking a foreign language. Because like when I lived in London,
okay,
I had to slow everything down, but I had to think of the word in my head before I spoke. So it was like things used to come out weird, and getting the sound is just wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely bilingual. I mean, one of the great things I'll come to was getting into poetry and the great love for the city. But you see so many young people now, or older people, texting or writing in dialect, wherever you're from. I'm like, that's great. You were always told as a bairn, speak proper. It's like, nah, this is the language we're born with. It's our culture and identity, wherever you're from. Yep. So that was what happened with that. Now we episode, which was to be a massive part of my life. In early 90s, I started working in the NCR factory. Great job. Spent 16 and a half years there. It's okay now, the place is closed, but we were getting money for old rope. Great job. The women, I've started writing a new play. It's no, a lot of the inspirations for the working in the factory, but the women had come in, I dolled up on a Friday, and they weren't doing a stroke of work because they were all going out on the tune by dinner time. So that's the kind of stuff that was going on. You know, you froze. Oh, the camera's still all right?
Not sure if you can still hear us, guys, but just a wee technical hitch there. Unstable. Let me see what's happening.
Stay tuned, folks. There's still loads to come. I'll maybe go and plug Alexa in and pour a large gin.
We're on, Gar, we're on.
Oh,
Don't know what happened there. I lost you for a minute.
Okay, I was about to get Alexa doing and just hear a show. Just get the gin poured No. I just mind it while the wee technical hitch was on. Another time I probably should have been dead was in Mallorca. I've used up 9 lives twice. Where it was probably the first lads' holiday when you go yourselves. You know with your mum and dad and that. And 3 of us went to Mallorca, drinking like maniacs. It was madness. We got on, we got the duty free, and whatever you bought, they had a deal on if you get a half bottle of white and Mackay whiskey, shite and Mackay, for 50 pence. So I bought a half bottle of whiskey. None of us really professional drinkers, but we're drinking like hell. We got on the plane and there was a load of guys from Berwick, and we had a big beer fight on the plane. If you done it now, you'd be grounded and jailed wherever you landed. But we're having this beer fight. So we get off the flight, and Kerry's on the hard drinking. And we hadn't really been in our apartment. I think we threw the case in and went right back out to the pub. So it was about tea time we gets back, and the pool area is closed below. And the hotel, our bathroom windy. If you're watching at home, kids, don't do this. The bathroom windy looked right down onto the pool, and we're on the 3rd floor, which was, I'm not exaggerating, it's about 70 foot high. And we hadn't even been in the pool because we just got arrived. And you're looking at the pool, and there was like a big area of concrete, the path around the pool. So my mate's perched at the window like a wee birdie, and he's there for ages, and everybody's getting dolled up to go out and have their tea and get on the swally. And my mate's threatening to jump in the pool. And the pool's quite tiny, and you can see a dark blue bit and there's a light blue bit. It's like, oh, if you're going to do it, go in the dark blue bit. So he's there for ages. Eventually, away he goes, and at the time that the lassies are like, I'll give you 1,000 pesetas if you jump in. So in he goes, comes to the surface, the obscene surface. Ed goes and follows him, gets to the windy, blootered. Away we go, skydiving without a parachute. Still got the clothes on, lands in the pool, and I'm no joking, Dean, I could stand in the pool and put my hand out it. That's how deep it was. And I mind I battered my arse on the ground and like, wait, this is great. And I near killed myself again. I went to the top of the chute that you slide down, and I dived off it, and I ended up hitting the bottom of the chute, slumped in the pool. That holiday was absolutely madness. My mum and dad were in that same, or they went and visited that hotel that same year, and they told me if I ever do that again, they would kill me instead of killing myself. So, sorry, mum and dad. Oh dear. All right, I just keep blaring away.
Go for it, mate.
Okay, so I start working at NCR. I got sidetracked there with and on the notice board there's an advert for the Mountaineering Hill Walking Club NCR. So it's like, fancy some of that. So end up getting a pair of baits and set of waterproofs out of mullets, golfing waterproofs or something, and start going into the mountains with the Hill Walking Club. Honestly, Dean, it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. You either love it or you hate it, because when the weather's beautiful, there's no place better than Scotland and the islands. So we started going out and going away on the weekenders, wait the wee Bothies, and a great squad of guys. And we still go out, some of us still go out yet. That's been over 30 years. But again, it was another huge thing that had a big effect on my life. And set yourself a day Adam Monroe's, and eventually completed them about 2005. But once the love's there, it doesn't stop you going out.
It's brilliant. I'm still today, mate. I've still not done it. I'm desperate.
It's been another good thing. Like, even I was up in the Sidlas yesterday, and there were so many people up in the hills. That's great to see. But it was, pardon me, a huge thing to get involved in. But another wee story. Should have died on this interview's littered. We should have died. I hope I didn't kick the bucket on air. I was climbing in winter up at Benmore and Stibinian near Crean Larach, and I didn't have crampons, which is the wee jaggy things that fit on your boots. And I was with my dad and my uncle and my pal Keir. Anyway, we done the first day in Benmore, and I'm no joke, it was like a skating rink. How we got up the first day, I don't know. One of us had crampons. He was okay. So goes up the second day, and my dad headed off, thankfully. And me and my uncle are heading up the second summit. And we're actually standing on wee, tiny points of stone that were sticking through the ice, jumping from bit to bit, and it's starting to get like this. So eventually we aborted it about half of the way up the summit. We're about 2,500, 3,000 feet near. And I says, oh, no, this is too dangerous. We start heading down, and I just got brand new boots for Christmas. So we get on this slope, and it's near vertical. And I says to my uncle, these boots are great for kicking in. And I must have been kicking in a couple of millimetres. And I had my ice axe. And what you do, to save yourself, you do slip in the snow and ice, is get your ice axe and stick it in. So I says to Steve, I'm not here, we practice of this. I should have picked a bit that was okay. This thing was like the luge. And I'm kicking along, and I hadn't even got the ice axe ready. And I fucking took off down this slope. And I knew I was in the shit, and the ice axe was just bouncing about. And I went, hurtling down in crazy speed in seconds. And I remember I turned round, and these two huge rocks, I went right through the middle of them. I'm not exaggerating, a foot or two either side. I would have been a pizza.
Over.
I went bouncing over these rocks, and I came to a standstill or a lie still. And I was like, fucking hell, I'm still alive. And I looks up the mountain to my uncle, and he's grating. He's like, howling, laughing. And I was like, well, I'm still alive. I've still got my senses. And I looked down, my thigh was about twice the size it should have been when it hit the rocks. But thankfully, I never broke it. But I took about a 6-hour epic to get off that mountain. End up in the pitch black. But I got down and we went to the pub. And I hobbles in, and I phoned Sue at the time because we didn't have mobile phones. And I phoned my wife and says, nearly killed myself. So she's greeting, crying on the phone. I say, it's all right, we're having a couple of pints. She's going to murder us. We got back, went to the hospital, but recovered.
Quality.
Another wee mountain story. I hope everybody's okay with these. We goes to Bramar camping in winter, and the snow's about a foot deep. It'd been bucketing all day, and we're up in the mountains. So the police come and shut the snow gates and says, you boys going to be all right? Says, yeah, fine. It's about a mile walk into the pubs in Bramar, and goes in, writing about the drink, staggers back to the tent, and it's like, it's Baltic. I put on my stove to heat up the tent, and I woke up in the morning and I was like, what's that fucking noise? My stove was right here, still burning away, and I looked around and I was like, one wee nudge of that during the night. I was lucky I was so drunk, I was in a coma.
Didn't move.
The gas had burned the whole night. I mean, tipping it over, and I was curtains again. So somebody up there's somebody up there or down there's looking after
You've had the
us.
time of it, Gary, man. Hanging on, you're hanging on, mate.
Stupidity. A lot of my own stupidity.
Cool.
Through the NCR and the Hull Walking Club, my mate Cammy Johnson got an email from the BBC in 2000 or 2001, and it was this brand new game show, reality TV show, SAS, Are You Tough Enough?
Yep.
And it really was right at the start of reality TV shows. I think there'd been in about an island or something. Anyway, it was very early on. So my mate gets the email. It says they're looking for pedestrians, the public, members of the public to hear go at a condensed version of SAS Selection. And I was like, I've got to get on this because I love reading about the SAS and just good inspirational stories in general. Yep. So applies for it and goes through the training and that, and I got accepted. So I was like, the main thing I was worrying about going on that show was speaking like this. I was like, nobody's going to get a clue what I'm saying. So got accepted. Probably spoke a bit politer on the TV. It was on BBC Two. So,
what year was that, Gary?
That was 2001.
2001.
I think I was 34 at the time. I'll be honest, Dean, I was at the peak of my training. Just absolute fitness fanatic.
What kind of training were you doing on the run up to going on that?
Running, weights, circuits, up in the mountains, loads with heavy packs on. A lot of martial arts at the time, but I had to stop it because the sparring, when we were doing Thai boxing and that, you were getting dead legs, which was no use for training days after. But one of the videos I sent in was me and Bully Beggars stick fighting. It wasn't the sticks, but I wasn't far off it. These chimney sweet brushes that were wrapped in foam. It was hard plastic and with fencing helmets and gloves on them. were knocking the shite out of each other. So it sent the video in, and they must have said, we've got to get this maniac on. So it gets accepted, 29 people. But I was funny. I says to my mum and dad and my wife, I'm just going to take it a day at a time and see how it goes. But I kind of tongue in cheek, I says to mum and dad, I'll go and win this. No bland trump. I just felt good about myself. But like I say, I'll take it a day at a time. And the last thing my wife says to me was, do not get caught on camera clearing the nose out, as I am sometimes happen to do, or clearing the throat. Anyway, yeah. So that was the warning for Mrs. Robo. So he goes and does the show, and everything's going well. It was funny. There was a guy in my tent the first day. I realised we're really in this with some really fit people. But what ended up coming down to was what's in here. The fitness is important, but the mental keeping going. And a big guy, he was like a side of a house. He said, I'm here to win this. And it was day 3, I think, on the BBC. He's getting dragged out with his feet dragging along the ground, totally out of it. And his wee video, home video, was like, you'll not be pushing me, I'll be pushing you. And you just didn't say these things to SAS guys. Keep your purse shut. Yep. So, we're going through the days, and it was brilliant. It was the kind of test I needed personally. There was no prize at the end of it. It was really just for your self motivation. Yep. There was a couple of wee funny things. The swimming test, it was about 1.5 miles in Calendar swimming pool in the school, and my swimming was shite. It got a bit better after. There's all these athletes swimming, and I'm going around, and eventually I'm floating on my back, and the staff sergeant Eddie Stone's like, I tell you to swim, and I'm floating around. Oh, is that the way in?
Sorry, Gary.
Is that right?
She's away.
Oh, right.
On you go, mate. Sorry.
The level of the pool's going down. I'm drinking half of the pool because I'm about drowning. And I'm floating around on my back. He's like, I'll tell you to swim. I says, I'm fucking swimming as long as I stay afloat. So there was only me and one guy left. This was about day 5 or 6. And if I didn't make it, I was going out. So eventually gets round the 20 laps of the pool, and the second last guy gave up. So it was me on my own, and I'm just paddling around. And then you had to do a breadth underwater. Or was it 2? No, a breadth underwater, sorry. So I'm absolutely out on my feet. And on camera, it goes and clears out both nostrils, and then a big goggle right in the pool. And it was on camera, it was on TV. But I gets underwater and I failed. Goes, go again. And what I pictured, Dean, was my family. I had to get to this place in my mind. And that's what I done. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I made it over to the other side, and I got through, and kept going. One other funny wee story within that was we done the parachute, and then we went to shoot live rounds at the Fife Constabulary headquarters. So we drives to Fife, but when we got there, there hadn't been clearance for the police station that we were there. So the minibus full candidates, we've got full camouflage gear on and an SLR deactivated rifle. And I was bursting for a pish. And you had to take this rifle everywhere you went when you were in camp and that. So I says to Eddie Stone, Eddie, I'm bursting. He says, well, we've not got clearance yet. Go over to the bushes. So I walks over the car park, goes and has a pish and walks back, and I've got this rifle. And I gets back in, And one of the other SAS guys didn't know that Eddie had cleared me to go and get a toilet. He says, right, who's fucking Action Man? He says, somebody's just caused a major security alert because inside the police station, all they seen was a guy in a combats and an SLR rifle walking across the car park.
Oh, what?
I could have got shot, but Eddie Stone thought this was funny as hell.
Yep.
But
Yep.
we goes 11 days and I ended up winning it. So that changed everything for me. That was sorry.
See if we'll wind it back a bit, Gary, and you think about like how you were when you said like when you were young and you had that fear about you, confrontational fear. And then even as you got older and you had a bit of depression and that, how much during that show did you use that to fuel yourself?
That probably meant everything, Dean, to come to the surface, because by that time, like I say, I was doing a lot of martial arts and sparring with the guys. I kind of got over the fear of getting hit, which was always a great fear of mine. And as things went on, like the mountains, whether it was sparring or that, the self-confidence started to grow. And that was channeled into getting through everything. It was like, I'm not giving up. You'll hate to kill us or take us off the show because I'm not giving up. And that was it. I was like, I've made it in my own mind. I've reached where I want to be. And for that time of travelling home on the train, for winning it, it was just a wee feeling inside of yes. And for that day, that was it. I kind of says, look, you can go and do whatever you want in life if you put your mind to it, or even if you have a go at something and fail, go on to the next thing. So it was a huge thing for me personally.
So would you say that was like a wee turning point where you enforced that self-belief in yourself?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, leading up to that, I had self-confidence to do stuff, but that was to bring on the whole. Going through the SAS thing was to bring on other writing, some and some the band and the eventually the performance poetry and that. Everything came for that SAS program. It was just the pinnacle of my self happiness. It's quite hard to
I know,
tell you.
I know, I understand that. It's like creates clarity for you.
Yeah. It was quite funny because we were told for the BBC, because the programme would go out later, under no circumstances you had to sign a thing saying you wouldn't tell the results of it. So my family knew I'd done well. I was definitely there at the last four. So I got back, it was on my son's birthday, and they had a big banner out on the house, SAS and all that. And so Abdi's asking, how did you get on? And I says, I can't tell you. And I didn't. I didn't tell them. Other people at work. But my wife, end day, this is probably, is it after the watershed? She kind of enticed us into the bedroom and things happened, and I told her she was the only one that knew. So that was that. I gave the guff away. But it was months later it came on TV because the 9/11 thing happened and the show got delayed because of that. But it was funny because it was doing in Jimmy Sorry's pub, not at the time, but the Drum Geeth, we had a party with friends and family and watched the last episode kind of live as it happened. So it was great. Just still fond memories of that.
Mate, come what's interesting when you said there you're just going to attack it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And just being able to compartmentalise your life. And I think, like, obviously I worked in we coaching people in the fitness industry, and even just like we're trying to get your mind straight as well, Ken.
Yeah.
It's like if you just focus on that one day, just get through the day, or just do that one thing the day, and when the morning comes, we'll see what happens in the morning.
That definitely, Dean. I mean, that was the whole thing. Get through, and you never knew when you were going to get wakened up 2 a.m, whatever. I just got myself in the zone to be like, whatever they're going to chuck at me, I'm going to attack it and get through it. So it was a huge turning point to reach that point in my life.
That's brilliant. I actually went in for SAS Who Dares Wins a couple of years ago.
Oh, right.
I went down to London on the train and spent the day going through all the tests and everything there, qualified to get through. Got the email saying that I was down to the last amount, and then obviously didn't get a call back. But I thought about going back and giving it another shot. But
you should, you're still in your prime. It's funny because
and when I was going down there and I met, I was thinking, oh, here. Well, obviously you won it. I was like, yeah, Dundee boys been down there and won it before. I've got to get on there. That was my train of thought going down there. So,
definitely, if you feel up for it, go for it again. It's funny because I watch Ant Middleton's shows and I'm like, I wonder if I could go again. But I'm 53 now. There's no chance. I've still got stamina in that, but I can't keep up with the younger guys now. No chance. I just enjoy watching it. But so carrying on for the show, I got back and I said, so I'm about to write a wee diary going through the programme. So I done a wee page by page thing. And then for nowhere, I was like, I'm about to write a book about going through the show. So I wrote 11 Days in a Hell Called Paradise, and I thought I was going to write this book, send it to publishers and make millions of pounds. No, it doesn't work like that. I wrote this manuscript, sent it out to loads of publishers, and either didn't get a shout back or tell the bugger off, this is crap. So I stuck with it. I thought it was a good wee story, just personally. And Sue's mum gave us a loan of £1,000 to self-publish it with a company, and they got the wee book done and sold enough copies to pay her back. I don't think there was any profit in it, but it started me writing, and I found that I really loved writing, and especially a longhand on the page. And then I hate to go and type it. My wife's like cracking up because I do double work, but I just found a real love for writing. And while I was doing that, Dina, I started writing poetry. Crazy. The first thing was about going up the Sidlaws, and I was writing it in Dundonian. I was like, this just feels good. So I started doing a few daft wee memories growing up in the hoosing schemes and that. And eventually I seen a poem in Dundee by Kevin McCabe. It was about smack, heroin, but it was written in Dundee dialect. I said, this is fantastic. This is what I'm really into just now. So I went to the Hulltown Horizons, which was the old Highwayman pub. It's funny, because it used to be a battleground. We had the Hulltown Huns and boys haying 3-rounders, and it turned into a place of culture and a writing group and a community centre. So, again, it was like my young days of going to the karate. I kept delaying it, and then I went into the writing group, and Mark Thompson and Kevin McCabe were in there. Didn't ken the guys. Sat down, says, we're writing poetry. So one thing led to another, started writing, just got so immersed in it, loved writing poetry, and it was on Dundee Dialect. And they guys were performing it live. They would rehearse it and then do it. And I says, I'm going to have a go at that. The first time, any time, it was as bad as going in the boxing ring or jumping out an airplane. Just the adrenaline, because you're on the spot. There's not like you're in a band. You can maybe get the guys to cover you with the music, the instruments. You're up there on your own, and if you met an arse with it, dig your own hole. So started performing the poetry, and just loved it. So for the poetry, we used to go through Edinburgh and do some of the nights, the Dundonian poetry, and the people are like, what the fuck is this? We're just rattling in with the raw Dundee life. And we were lucky because there was a publisher there, Gavin McDougall from Lewis Press in Edinburgh, and he says, I'd like to publish your stuff. And we're like, we're just boys for the hoosing schemes. This only happens to people that have got degrees and what have you. But, it was a huge buzz. So went and spoke to Gavin. Says, I'll publish your poetry. So he did. It's called Pure Dundee. I think it's out of print now. But at the time, I'd started writing the Gangs of Dundee book. And really, that come from a poem called Gangs of Dundee, which I'd written. This says, it'd be great to write a history of how the gangs come about in the 60s and eventually through the 70s and 80s. So, yeah, I did. I went and started interviewing the guys. The first guy I interviewed was my good pal, sadly passed away now, Davy Young, and spent about 3 hours yapping about the crazy days of the gangs in the 60s. And then it led on, giving us other names and that, and just done interviews. Again, didn't have a clue how to write a book. But someone felt right, and I wrote a lot of the interviews in dialect. So it was quite hard for people to read that. It's like, I don't know, Chinese. But once you get your head into it, it's like train spotting when you read the book. You get the lingo, the dialect. So Gavin published Gangs of Dundee, and it went great. But again, I thought I was going to make about £1 million, and I was quite a wee bit short of that. So at that time, I wasn't working. We'd got paid off for the NCR. So I says to my wife, I'm going to be a writer. And Gary Robertson, she gave us a couple of years to... about a year and a half to write, but when the check came in, it was good, but it wasn't enough to
keep the wolf for the door.
Yep. So went and got a job with the Scaffies. But again, it got us into writing, and I found I really enjoyed it. And the gang thing was great. We'd done a radio programme, and I got the pick of the week. We had other guys, some of the guys for the gangs are sitting for different gangs in this living room for the 60s. And you're like, at the time, you couldn't have, they would have been killing each other, but it was great to hear.
That was cool. So you brought them all together?
Yeah, Billy Kay, a good pal, broadcaster and writer, we'd done a programme on BBC Scotland, and I got pick of the week. It was brilliant to do, but at the time, it was the most stolen book in Waterstones. And Dundee, claim to fame. So I think that's how I didn't get the $1 million. I've still got loads of royalties to come in. So if you stole that book, you're due me.
Quality. Quality, mate. What was the next book that you wrote, Gary?
I done Skeem Life, growing up in the 70s, and I think it's out of print now. That was done with Black and White Publishing, another Edinburgh publisher.
Well, I bought it just last week.
Did you get it?
On Kindle.
Oh, right.
So I bought it on Amazon, mate. So it was just bang straight to my phone. So read it on the Kindle.
Oh, good. I don't think they do the paper copies anymore. But if anybody's out there wanting to read about my life right through the 70s, there's much more than I've told you. I've been rabbiting on a bit. But
mate, it's hilarious.
Just had the New Year parties and growing up in the housing schemes. So I wrote that book, and then in amongst that, I'd wrote a poem about the berry picking. So actually, I wrote a play before that that's no seen the light of day, called Running with the Gang. So hopefully I'll get that someday. It was about the gangs in 1979 in Dundee. Nobody's ever seen that. I've not performed it yet, so that might come out. But again, it was another.
How do you go? How do you go for like writing a poem to writing a book to writing a screenplay to writing a playwright?
Dean, Ed and I can. Honestly, like I say, I didn't pass English at scale. I was shite. But something in my head must have known how to construct a sentence or what have you. Yeah, so everything led on to the next thing. I was writing the poetry, so I'll go and write a book. And then in between that, I was like getting wee characters in the head, people you know, or people with character traits and that. And just for the berry picking, which was a huge thing in Dundee and Tayside, getting on the berry buses in the 70s. So for a poem, I says, I want to write a play. I'd wrote the gang play, but the berry. And what I found was, I set it in 1974, but I was laughing to myself while I was writing it. So I was like, if it doesn't go anywhere, I've enjoyed writing it myself, because I was pushing my brakes at the memories. So I write it, and my wife and a few of her pals been doing musical theatre for years. So we pulled a wee team in, and we done it pure DIY, do it yourself at the Bonner Hall. It was mental because we'd set ourselves 3 nights, and again, I was like, "What am I doing? This is nuts. What if nobody comes?" But I was selling tickets as well as Groucho's, but for the back of the bin, Larry. I was doing my job on the bins, and my phone's going, and I'm right. 3 tickets for Thursday night. Okay, what's your address? I'm trying to do my job and sell tickets, and it was carnage. So the first night, the 3 nights sell out, and I'm absolutely shitting myself. I didn't play a part in it. I'm just sitting, and my wife plays any of the parts. There's 4 berry pickers. For about 2 minutes in, the audience are howling laughter, and I'm like, "Oh, job done." You just hope people spend their well-earned money. You hope they enjoy it. But
so many people could relate to that, because everybody went, did that?
Everything was everybody there, pushing in the buckets and that, and the fights, the humping up the drills and what have you. So we done the 3 shows, and then the following year we done 5 shows in the Bonner Hall, sold them out again. So then I said, I'll go and write something new, and I wrote the Scaffies, but I've kind of jumped the gun a wee bit, because that old black dog that I was talking about earlier come back to bite my arse big time. 2014, leading up to that, life had been plodding along, but I'd been booting the arse at times out of the drinking, and I'll be honest, Dean, I lost respect for myself, and then kind of Abdi around us. Know that you still love Abdi, but I'd got to the stage I was like, the words were, I couldn't give a fuck. And I was kind of like, if I got hit for a bus today or tomorrow, I was like, so what? And that is a horrible, horrible place to be. And
was there an instant that triggered it this time? Or was it again?
No, just a balled up, as we would say, no keeping your eye on the ball. Just going out, I was with the band and that, know that there was anything going on. You're out with the band and just coming home at the wee daft hours and just think life was like a party again. But I'm a married man with 2 children, and you're like, wait a minute, grow up a wee bit. And I didn't. I just thought I was 18 again. And kind of the foundations come from underneath us, and end up splitting up with my wife and left the family house and went away to stay with another woman, and thought the grass was greener. And I was away for a year and a half, and I through that time just thinking, what the hell have I done? And again, are they things that were there early doors came back with a vengeance, and eventually, I mean, I tried to speak to my wife through it and the kids and that, but it wasn't right. It's like you've broke a really tight knit family. I've made a complete mess of things. So what happened with that was just the guilt and what we'd done, and like kind of fix this, and I could have fixed it earlier and I didn't.
Yep.
I sat on the top of the Law Hill on Christmas Eve, it'd be about 2015, I think, and just sat crying my eyes out and saying, Kim, what? There's no point in being here. I'd went right back in that hole. That was it. There was nothing else on my mind. My wee grandson had come along, and even that, I was overriding in my head to just go and disappear, because in my mind I was thinking that's what will fix this, to tap me out the equation and everything will be okay. Just horrendous time of my life, and I've nobody to blame but myself, Dean. I caused it, and
mate, to come on and speak about it like on this tonight, mate, I kind of tap my hat off to you, and for you to sit there and accept the responsibility here, that's a lot.
I mean, it's no easy to talk about, but I'm glad I have, because it'll never fix what was done, but it helps me help myself hearing it coming out, I think, and hopefully just help other people maybe just to speak about things. And I mean,
you're amazing of your wife. Amazing of your wife for bringing you back.
Do you know, honestly, I've got her to Mrs. Robo to thank for my life, and I mean that 100%, because if things hadn't worked out, I wouldn't even like to think what might have happened. Even with my wee grandson coming on the scene, I just felt so guilty and ashamed again, and other stuff that even though I'd been through the SAS and what have you, I would only say to people, just be on your guard. And Sue took us back, and we very slowly started doing the things that we should have been doing, but I didn't see at the time, and just getting back to doing the basics, I've got her to thank for the rest of my life. And
you're a lucky man.
I know, and there's no a day goes by where I don't think about how lucky I am, and I really mean that. Just getting back to some kind of happiness and normality. But I mean, I would say that to anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, that there's things can trigger in life, and you could be up there and it'll knock you right on your arse. And if you're not careful, I mean, it was a different scenario for my younger life, but again, it was something that I wasn't watching for, and I let it get out of hand.
Yep. Yeah, I got it all the time. Can people think they seem that much of me like happy, like screaming, shouting, usually doing daft dances and stuff like that on social media, and when I've trained them, or kind of been in my community or stuff like that, that we could assume sometimes that you're bulletproof, but really it's me more than anybody. I've got to get up every day. I've got to train, and I've got to be canny on the weekends. And I've got to go stints with like 12 weeks, 13 weeks, 14 weeks where I'm like total sobriety, because when one weekend goes to the next and the next, and then you stop training and you start eating shite, and it's just like, it's a snowball effect, man.
I can. I mean, I'm sitting here now, and I think everything could flash by me. I was sitting writing loads of wee notes the night, and they're like, Jesus, so many things could have happened in life, and things I've done. A lot of my own fault, jumping out of windies in hotels and what have you. I wouldn't be sitting here today. Someone's kept us here. So, like I say, I try to get up every morning, Dean, and put a smile on my face and be nice to people and hey, laugh and love this life that we've been given. Just enjoy it.
Waking up every morning and feeling grateful for what you've actually got brings more stuff and more happiness and joy into your life, mate, does it?
Definitely, and I'll probably wrap up a bit soon because I've been blethering here for a couple of hours.
I'm here, I'm loving it. I'm loving
it. This lockdown is, I think everybody would probably say that it brought a real feeling of how important your family and people closest to you really are to you, and what will I do for each other. It's been a really strange time in life, but I think when we do get back to normality and it's slowly creeping in, that I hope we can keep the things close to one and just say, remember your family and your pals, and enjoy life.
Definitely.
Every day, whatever you do in life, get your best.
100%, mate. Here, the last 14 weeks have been a wake-up call for us because we've got a salon and now another salon in Glasgow and a training academy, and we just live in 100 mile an hour day in, day out. And then when this hit, we were like, then to the extreme of doing nothing. We were like, wait a minute, when we come out of this, we're kind of be there, but we're kind of be there, but we need to be somewhere in there. So we're actually enjoying because you're working, but for thinking, when I get to there, I'll do that, or when I get to that point, I'll do that. But really, it's like, no, just keep doing what you're doing, but live your life at the same time, and have the people closest to you and dearest to you in there.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true. But I just want to say, I mean, even how life's gone in that, I still like a wee swally. That's still something I'm ever gonna no day. I mean, I've never drunk so much in all my life as during this lockdown. I mean, scale nights through the week, I would never. And that going live that other Thursday there, me and my dad hit the whiskey, and I was like, what the hell? And that's something that's got to stop. Mrs. Robo's.
I've seen a couple of the lives, like 11 of them.
She's always lurking there, ready to chop my head off. So, yeah, just right up to now, Dean, I really thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak and open up about a lot of things that most people have never heard. And going, going forward for here, just we're still involved with the Cundeez. We've been working on a new album during lockdown, and there's a new play started. I've started writing it again. It's getting rid of the wee laziness things. There's a couple of screenwriting ideas on the go. Again, it's something I've never done, but like you say, for the SAS thing, it's like, why no? Let's get writing amongst it. So we'll see 100%. What happens. Hopefully I've got another wee chapter for you a wee bit further down the line. But right now, moving forward, we the band really looking forward to getting back out and playing music. And anybody that kens us will ken how much I've just got on Pete and Diesel just now, and the guys up in the Western Isles. So shout out to you up there if you're watching and listening. And the dream would be if the Sex Pistols or the Beatles or that asked what to play live with them, or Pete and Diesel, it would be you boys. So that day's coming.
Brilliant.
But Dean, just that's it, mate. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody that's listened to me.
Definitely. Well, Gary, I'm going to put it over to the guys before.
Okay.
If anybody, because there's still like over 150 people on here.
Bloody hell.
Anybody who's got, we were up to like 230, 240, mate, at one point. Jeez. So it's been great. So anybody was on, guys, if you've got any comments that you want to leave for Gary, go for it. But if you've got any questions while we're still on, we'll grab another couple of minutes and we'll see what Gary's got to say. And I'll scroll back through and have a wee look and check them out. Gary, from me to you, mate, thanks so much for coming on. But, like, it takes balls to come on as well and be so honest. Can tell that part of your story, and I think that
it was emotional just to relive that. But no,
it takes a lot to do it, mate. Sorry.
It feels good to speak about it because I've kept that so much. Maybe a couple of times I've let it out to people, but even my own family didn't ken a lot of that. What I was hiding in my young days, and then the mess that I got in later on, and thank you, Dean, for having us.
Spot on, mate. It's been a pleasure. Right, let's see what people have got to say. So, everybody's saying...
Get that Fintry arsehole off.
Now, like, enjoyed the crack. Genuine emotion. Thanks, Gary. Fabulous, Gary. Brilliant, Gary. Is he wearing stage makeup tonight?
No, it's a Scaffies tan. It stops here.
Bob McKenzie, really enjoyed that.
Cheers, Bob.
So, you're a great man, Gary. Big respect. Loads of positive. It's all positive, mate. It's all positive. I'm just seeing to see if there's any questions. Or is this recorded? Yep, it's recorded. That will be uploaded on the page. What else have we got? Just all well done, mate. All well done.
Thank you.
We covered loads, mate. We covered everything. So we've been on for over 2 hours.
It's like, I better shut my puss.
Mate, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant.
That's what I said, just stay on, I'll go and get a gin.
Yeah, are you up for doing a wee poem for me before you go?
Go on then, you've put us on the spot. I'll see if I could remember. Okay.
Love it. Right, guys, here we go.
It's funny because, Dean, you were there like when the View guys come out of Louvaina and the Get Downs and that. There was a great wee scene in Dundee, and me and Mark and Kev were in between bands doing the poetry, and that it was a great time in life.
That was the first time I ever seen you, mate. That was the first time I ever seen you.
It was a real community there with the music, and we were getting up just ranting about Dundee and that. So this scene's called Ori Tolede, and Ori is the word that we call the Dundee dialect, and it really is about being proud of wherever you come from. Speak the language; it's your identity. Ori Tolede. Ori Tolede, proud to spout the lingo for the city of the pay. A streetways poet for the Skeems, educating and promoting, telling folk what it means to come for the places that we come for. Keep alive the language you use every day. Words for the playground, rhymes for the Cundeez, the sound of the streets, pure broad Dundee. Dinna lecture the bairns, tell them it's nae good. Our tongue's too precious to end up brown bread. Are you teachers of English, beware. Are you would-be polite folk? Ken what? We dinna care. Here Deck the Painter and Alec the Scaffies. There's Maggie and Helen hinna blethering their baffies. As pouring out the chippers, the factories and for the chippers and the Skeems to the top of the la. It's coming at you dead fast like a scalp in the pus. There's no dialect finer, there's nobody like us. They've tried to put with doon, tried to trample and correct. The pressure of being live.
Being live, mate.
Right, that's it. There's a few other Dundee
Thanks
words
very
that come
much, my
after.
man.
Sorry,
Guys,
folks.
spot on. If anybody could share this, share the post. Get as many views on this as possible. Share Gary's story. It's been emotional, it's been inspirational, and good night.